Hey, welcome back to Being Integrated. I am Jude. If you're new here, this is a channel where I try to make healing and growth practices available to people. I'm an integrative counselor. I work with clients one-on-one pretty much every day. And I know that it is not always hard to find a good therapist or to afford therapy. And so I really wanted to make these practices, the things that I have personally found helpful and found helpful for my clients. So I wanted to make these practices and this type of knowledge, the practices that I have personally found helpful and the ones I find helpful for my clients, I wanted to make these more available so you can practice at home. So if this is the kind of stuff that interests you, or if you are on a healing journey and you want to explore various types of practices that can support you in your healing and growth, then you can subscribe to the channel. It's much appreciated. You could also sign up for my newsletter. I am soon releasing a course on meditation for ADHD, and the course actually goes far beyond just meditation. It's really a deeply holistic approach to treating ADHD by looking at so many different facets of the mind-body connection and how to work with them in depth. I've been working on it for a little while, and I keep deepening my approach and refining it, so I'm really excited. It is coming along well. It's taking longer than I expected, but that's because I'm putting a lot into it. So if that interests you, sign up for my newsletter to get updates on that. But today I wanted to talk about something that nobody wants to talk about. It's shame. So shame is something that everybody experiences and nobody ever brings it up. So it's funny that in my experience, working with clients all the time, that it's not very often that a client brings it up. What they will bring up is anxiety. Anxiety is extremely common. Everyone talks about having anxiety. And what I found is that a good portion of the time, there's a lot of shame underneath that anxiety. So anxiety is very interesting in the sense that it's talked about as its own thing. Oh, I have an anxiety disorder, or I have an anxiety issues, or I suffer from anxiety. But there's always something else underneath anxiety. Anxiety is a resistance to feeling something. It is not wanting to go somewhere, usually internally, or a fear that something might happen. And there can be so many different things underneath this anxiety. I've encountered all sorts of things when we go digging underneath the surface anxiety. Everything from really severe grief and sadness to fears to unprocessed trauma. There's so much that could be underneath it, but I've often found shame. And what happens very often when you encounter shame, when I've encountered it in myself, when I've encountered it in clients, is it kind of hides right away. Like, we don't want to go there, we don't want to talk about it, we just find a good reason to avoid it. And it dawned on me one day that I had been avoiding shame for so long that I didn't think I suffered from shame because it was actually so well avoided. It was so well repressed. So one way to know if we're suffering from repressed shame, if we have unprocessed shame that we need to process, is if we feel shame that's disproportional to the event that happened. So if something happens and it triggers a feeling of shame that doesn't really seem proportionate to what happened, then there's a good chance we have a complex. A complex is a term that was invented by Carl Jung, which was kind of what put him on the map in his early days of thinking. The basic idea of a complex is that we have many different experiences that carry the same emotional resonance. So when we're talking about shame here, there may have been childhood experiences where we felt a lot of shame. And then later in life, there were more experiences that reinforced that. Often there's an original kind of experience or a time in one's life where that feeling is so big and so overwhelming that we dissociate from it, we repress it. And then that repression of it just becomes this habitual way of relating to the feeling. So later in life, we feel shame, and then we're like, oh, there's that shame, don't like that, I'm repressing that too. And we become very good at avoiding these feelings until, of course, something triggers it and we just blow up in shame. So if we want to do the healing work, there's actually a lot of ways to go about it. We can work with the shame that's already there, but if the shame's not present at the moment, we can do what might be called a trigger practice, which is actively, intentionally triggering the feeling so we can sit with it and be with it. If you're overwhelmed right now, if you're not ready to kind of go in and dig into this shame, if you're already kind of spent or exhausted or stressed, then maybe it's not a good time to do this practice. So I would advise just being good to yourself and resting. But if you're ready to go in and kind of explore and confront what's there, then we can get into it. So the healing of shame is actually it being seen and expressed and really felt. What shame wants to do is contract. It literally contracts. If you imagine yourself in a time when you felt shame, or if you even feel it right now, you can usually feel your body just like tightening up. I feel it in my psoas, like kind of the hip muscles. They just like tighten up. My shoulders collapse. And we go into this protective state of being. We really contract around the experience to try to keep it really small and hidden and not let it get out. And the healing of shame actually happens through the release of that contraction, the opening to it, and allowing it to move through us almost like it's dancing through our body in waves and vibrations, however it shows up for you. So yes, we're going right into the discomfort. And this is really the value of meditation. And this is really what real healing is. It's going into the discomfort and being okay to feel it. We are so habitually resistant to feeling discomfort, resistant to feeling anything that we judge or deem as not good, that we kind of make these things out to be bigger and scarier than they are. So what we're doing is we're trying to slowly and safely find space, find the way that we can start to go into these feelings and allow ourselves to really feel them. And this requires a safe space. And that means a different thing to each person. So hopefully you have a safe space in your home. Hopefully you can feel safe just where you are right now. If that's the case, great. If that's not the case, then again, this may not be the practice for you right now. You may want to hold back and maybe do a distress management practice, which I also have on my channel, or anything that you find personally soothing. But if you do feel safe, and if you can find more ways to make yourself feel safe, which is often being around someone we trust, making our space really nice, putting on like nice lighting and nice music that we find really soothing. These are ways to kind of calm down our system, allowing it to relax and then open up to more uncomfortable sensations. So I think I've given you enough warnings. If this isn't for you, that's totally good. But if you're ready to explore and confront the lived experience, the present moment experience of shame, then we're going to get right into it. Okay, so let's start with just closing your eyes if that's comfortable and taking a few deep breaths. Just notice how you're feeling right now in this moment. Maybe there's some nervousness present. And that's all okay. Just welcome that sensation. We're not trying to change anything. We're just being curious about how we're feeling. And again, look for any sort of emotional activation in the body, especially in our abdomen, in our chest, in our head. Just right down the center line of our body. That's where we experience most of our feelings. We're just being curious what sensations are there. It may be emotional, or it may just be like a vibrational quality in the body. And just see if you can meet it, whatever is there, just with these open arms, just welcoming it, allowing it to be there, not trying to change it. We're just relaxing into our experience as it is, just allowing it to be. Now we're going to start to look at this idea of shame and how we carry it. You can think of maybe a recent incident that brought up the feeling of shame, or it could even be an old incident. It doesn't matter, but you can just remember what happened that made you feel shame. And where in your body do you feel that shame? Maybe you're feeling it right now. And just see if you can keep your posture open, keep your chest open, stay straight. Don't allow yourself to contract or get small. Stay open and relaxed while you feel this shame, allowing it to move through your body as it needs to. Can you just be with it, witnessing the feelings, the sensations, knowing that the shame isn't you. It's not inherent to you. It's just an experience that you're having. So just seeing it as that and allowing yourself to have that experience. And if we want to go deeper here, just start to examine what's the earliest instance you remember of feeling shame? What's at the real root of this shame complex? There may be a specific incident, or it may just be a time in your life. And just see if you can visualize that old version of yourself, that old version feeling that shame. And notice what it's doing to their body, how they are contracted in the shame. And see if you can just connect. Imagine yourself eye gazing, just holding eye contact with this previous version of yourself and feeling that shame that they're feeling with them. And telling them, hey, it's okay to feel this way. We can feel this together. So it's your present self connecting with your past self, giving yourself permission to feel the shame, that it's okay to feel this way. And just noticing what that's like right now. Where do you feel the shame in your body? Sometimes we feel sexual shame down in our hips. Sometimes we feel shame in our chest. It could actually be anywhere. So just be aware, where does it feel like it's rooted in our body? And see if we can, again, soften there. Not trying to get rid of it, but allowing it to just move, allowing it to vibrate or pulsate, whatever it's doing in our body. Just allowing that to happen. Meeting it with an open heart. Well, what's the belief system that's tied to this shame? Maybe there's a belief that we're not good enough, that there's something wrong with us, that we're a bad person. You see if you can see that. Again, we're not trying to change it. We're just trying to bring more awareness as to what ideas, beliefs are tied to the shame, what keeps it locked up, what reinforces it. And if you can find those core beliefs, the core ideas about why you deserve to feel shame, see if you can deconstruct them a bit. See if that would be true for somebody else. If somebody else was feeling shame, if they were in the same situation as you, someone you really deeply cared about, do you think they would be deserving of feeling that way? It's like we're our own worst critics. We're so harsh on ourselves. And we want to ask, do we really deserve it? Because we may feel like we do. But when we really look, when we really separate ourselves, we can start to have a bit more compassion, start to see that we may be more deserving of love, of compassion, of care than we had thought. So what is it like to be evoking the shame, remembering the shame, feeling the shame in our body, and bringing this compassion to it? A compassion that's not trying to put it out or repress it, but just actually validating it, actually meeting it as it is. Can we just be compassionate towards our own experience of shame, towards the shame that is living in our body in this moment? Can we just care for ourselves, care for our feelings, not trying to change them, not trying to get rid of them or move them or even make them bigger or smaller, but just deeply acknowledging, seeing, accepting, and even caring for our experience in this moment as it is. And finally, to help bring us out, we're going to do a little gratitude practice. What are you grateful for in your life? Maybe it's a person, maybe it's something you have, maybe it's a place. I'm very grateful for the natural world, for nature, for the food I eat, for the people that care about me, that support me. What are you grateful for? And just noticing how bringing our mind, our intention to cultivating gratitude changes our experience. Again, it may be subtle or it may not be, but with practice we can deepen this experience of gratitude, of feeling grateful for the things we have, grateful for our lives, for existence itself. And that can really shift our experience, especially when we start to be grateful for the things that maybe are uncomfortable, maybe experiences or people that rub us the wrong way. Can you be grateful for those too? And that's okay if you can't. With time, maybe. But the more we can bring that open-hearted gratitude towards our experience, towards every aspect of our experience, the easier or smoother our life becomes. So just taking a few more breaths and coming back into your body. You can slowly open your eyes. You can move whatever is comfortable to you. And thank you. Thank you for practicing with me, for doing this practice that most people would absolutely avoid. If you made it this far, congratulations. You're a rare type to really go through with these types of practices, and it shows that you really care about yourself. And this is self-care, is going into the uncomfortable places and doing it for our own betterment because we know it's actually good for us in the long run. So I really want to encourage you to continue the practices that feel resonant for you, not the ones that you feel like you need to do out of some form of duty or guilt, but the ones that feel like they're most supportive, the ones that feel like they're most needed. So I have a lot more practices on my channel. Again, you can like, subscribe, do all those things, comment. If you have any requests for videos, I'm very open to hearing them. Thank you again for practicing with me, and I will see you next time.